Good morning, everyone. My name is Krista McKinney King, and I am the proud principal of Randolph Career and Technical Center. It is my pleasure to welcome you to our school, and honestly, to welcome Urban Alliance to the city of Detroit. So officially, welcome. Before I continue, I must acknowledge our kids. And they're going to be acknowledged all throughout the program, but they look really good. So let's give them a clap. So here at Randolph, we are truly committed to ensuring that all of our students graduate ready to be successful in the workforce. We are thrilled to have partnered with Urban Alliance to give more of our students a chance to gain real-world work experience and, most honestly, to master 21st century skills needed after they go into adulthood. Urban Alliance's program complements the technical training our students receive by giving them the professionalism, but most honestly, the confidence to secure gainful employment after they graduate. Urban Alliance's presence in this city is yet another sign that our community is making a serious and long-term investment in creating sustainable pathways to success for Detroit students. Detroit Public Schools Community District is proud to be a part of this mission. So, on behalf of Detroit Public Schools, we would like to thank Urban Alliance and the Quicken Loans Community Fund for bringing more tangible opportunities for Detroit students to build healthy, prosperous futures. Because again, when students rise, we all rise. Now, I would like to introduce to you Ishana Smith, CEO of Urban Alliance, to tell you more about this great program.
Well, good morning, Detroit. Whew, so great to be here. We've been waiting for this day for a long time, and Krista, you pronounced it right. Thank you. But thank you, Krista, for having us here today and for your partnership in our first year of Detroit. We are truly humbled by the support we've received from our partners here in this city, including the Detroit Public Schools Community District, the Quicken Loans Community Fund, the Skillman Foundation, Bank of America, and the Detroit Employment Solutions Corporation. We are proud to stand with you all today to launch our flagship high school internship program in Detroit. Yeah. The Urban Alliance High School Internship Program is an intensive, year-long model providing high school seniors with 6 to 7 weeks of pre-employment professional development training, a 9-month paid professional internship, on-the-job mentoring, ongoing job and life skills training, and post-high school planning assistance, all followed by lifelong college and career support. At Urban Alliance, we have over 2 decades of experience providing over 4,000 youth with paid year-round internships and professional development. Our model engages deeply with the communities in which we work, partnering with businesses, schools, funders, and other community-based organizations to increase economic opportunity for all. Here in Detroit, we are extremely fortunate that we will be partnering with the Quicken Loans Community Fund and Quicken Loans family of companies, our anchor employer here, who will provide 30 students annually with year-long paid internships across the family of companies. I cannot thank Quicken Loans enough for their belief in our work, their investment, and for being all-around outstanding thought partners and collaborators. In addition, Bank of America will be hosting 5 interns, and we will place an additional 5 students, and I learned today maybe 6, at local nonprofit employers. Thanks to all of our partners, we are able to offer our inaugural class of Detroit interns an array of valuable, real-world placements in the heart of the city. Thank you all so very much. So we will be starting with 40 students, primarily from here at Randolph, Breithoff, and Osborne High Schools. And I'm excited, this is the thing I am most excited about, that all of our students are here today. Can you all please stand for a moment? And let's give them a round of applause. As Krista said, you do look beautiful and amazing, and I just have 3 quick things I want to say to you as you embark on your internships. 1, as you get going, always ask a lot of questions. Never be afraid to ask something that you may not know. Always follow your instincts. That feeling or thought that you get that encourages you or warns you, that inner voice that is pushing you to do what needs to be done. And finally, know that you are exactly where you need and deserve to be. Don't let anyone tell you anything different. You've worked hard for this opportunity, and you were made for this and all that will follow. There is simply nothing that you cannot do. Congratulations again to our inaugural class. All right. There were 2 things that struck us and stood out for us in identifying Detroit as a very special place. 1, there is a shared belief by all of our partners in this room and in this city that it's up to all of us to ensure that the next generation has the tools that they need for success, and that all young people, no matter who they are or where they come from, deserve access to opportunity. And secondly, this city has a strong, very, very strong community of businesses, organizations, schools, foundations, and civic leaders who have stepped up to invest in supporting and developing local talent in the communities that support them to ensure a successful transition to adulthood and pathways to economic self-sufficiency. When I think about our work together and what we're all trying to do together, I believe it really comes down to building a collective movement across sectors to support our young people. Ultimately, what we want is to provide an effective continuum of services and supports that truly and fully meet young people where they are. And toward that end, I am also extremely grateful to the Skillman Foundation for their investment in Urban Alliance, which has provided us the opportunity to contribute to Detroit's growing youth employment ecosystem, and will allow us to support that system with a focus on year-round workplace training, employment, skill building, and mentorship. I want to sincerely thank all of you for welcoming us to your city and allowing us to support this amazing community. Thank you all so very much. Now it is my great pleasure to introduce a key member of this community, Nicole Sherrard-Freeman, President and CEO of the Detroit Employment Solutions Corporation. Thank you.
Good morning again. I'm Nicole Sherrard-Freeman. I have the pleasure of leading Detroit Employment Solutions Corporation and grow Detroit's young talent under the leadership of our mayor, Mike Duggan. Whether you're a Detroiter or someone who works alongside Detroiters to create opportunity for youth, it's probable that you know GDYT, Grow Detroit's Young Talent, as the city's summer youth employment initiative. And if you work with students at Randolph or Breithoff or any of the other DPS-CD career technical education centers, it's probable that you also know that summer youth employment is just one part of the youth employment plan and strategy in Detroit. And if you do any work on the youth employment plan in Detroit, you know that that plan is just one component of a broader youth development strategy that under the leadership of the mayor is part of the vision to create long-term opportunities for young people. And you know that that's just getting and keeping a good job is just one component of the pathway into adulthood. So since 2015, GDYT has been the way to connect young people ages 14 to 24, whether you're in school, out of school, a high school graduate or not, Whether you are connected to work or have never had a youth or an employment experience, GDYT is the way that we connect young people to opportunity. And so whether that's, a 14-year-old and it's their first job, or it's a college student and it's their second summer internship, or whether it's, quite frankly, a 22-year-old who dropped out and doesn't have any opportunity, GDYT is the one way that we connect you to opportunity. And so we're excited about inviting and having Urban Alliance in Detroit. So Ishana and I have been working together with our teams over the past several months to understand the similarities in our program and the differences, and we've really come to appreciate how our models will complement each other. So Urban Alliance, as Ishana and her team have said, works with smaller cohorts of students, the wonderful young people we see with us today, in a year-round program. And GDYT works, again, with 14 to 24-year-olds. No matter where you are in your skill or your development level, we have an opportunity for you. We are very excited to have Urban Alliance as another component of the GDYT structure and strategy. Ultimately, what we want to do is figure out how we all work together in this ecosystem to leverage each other's resources, right? There's plenty of work to do. There's lots of opportunity, and we believe Urban Alliance is a key contributor to the broader plan for youth in Detroit. Bank of America is a longtime partner and resource for GDYT, and Bank of America has been in partnership with Urban Alliance since 2002, if I have that right. And Bank of America is really an example of how employers are working together with us to connect dots and expand partnerships and really build systems that work for all Detroit youth. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Andrew Plepler, Global Head of Environmental, Social, and Governance at Bank of America.
Thank you, Nicole. Really appreciate it. It is wonderful to be here. Mayor Duggan, I'm happy that you allowed me to come back to Detroit. Last time we did a press conference together, we had a rather colorful character who I think the mayor looked at me and said, what are you thinking? And now this is a chance to celebrate something that I know you are going to be enormously proud of in the city, and Bill Emerson at Quicken. I wear sort of two hats today, my Bank of America hat, and with my colleague Matt Elliott, who's the market president here and a much more familiar face in Detroit. But we at Bank of America have been partnering with Urban Alliance for a long time. I also have the distinct privilege, and it's probably the most personally fulfilling part of being here today, is I was one of the original founders of Urban Alliance back in 1996 with my cohort, Mary Zients, who's in the front row, and our board chair. Back in 1996, when we started Urban Alliance, is sort of a vision. We were starry-eyed, much younger at the time, and sort of I went to an event in DC, which was around youth violence, and at the time, Al Gore was vice president, Eric Holder was U.S. attorney, and DC was struggling with the issue of youth violence. And there was this panel brought together to examine youth violence, and a lot of press, a lot of business leaders, and a panel of young people like we have here today. And they all asked the question of the students, what can we do to attack this scourge of youth violence? And it was sort of obvious. Every kid answered, I need a job. Give me something to do. I want to be productive. And at the end of the event, with all the press cameras there and the vice president, all the business leaders ran to the stage at the end of the event, and they all handed their business cards and call me, and these kids all walked away with stacks of business cards. And 48 hours later, I went out to Anacostia High School and met one of the young women who was on the panel, and she still had her stack of business cards. And I said, Kenitra, what'd you do after the panel? She said, not one person called me back. I called a bunch of them. Nobody's returned my call. And that was the aha moment, because that was the moment where you realize time and again, young people have been given promises and they've been disappointed. And that's the frustration that Urban Alliance was born out of, was our commitment is to deliver on the promise of a meaningful job opportunity, to give young people the opportunity to be all that they can be. It's not all that complicated. And at the time, employers were very skittish about putting young people from Anacostia in their workplace. What are the liability issues? Oh, I can't do it. And those who signed on got very committed to it and endured for 20 years. And Quicken Loans should be really applauded to come right out of the gate and commit to 30 young people. Not one, not two, let's see how it goes. We're going to take 30 young people. And that's the kind of courageous corporate leadership that we need around the country. That's what it's going to take to provide meaningful change and economic mobility for young people across the country. And here in Detroit, I have no doubt that this program is going to be an enormous success, because it's been a success everywhere it's gone. It's been in Chicago, DC, Baltimore, Northern Virginia, and the opportunities here in Detroit are enormous. And the organization has a 20-year track record of never disappointing and never turning back on a promise that was made, because that was the enduring commitment that was made, and it's the philosophy of the program. So you young people are going to be supported every step of the way, and you're going to be enormously successful. We are very proud of our alumnus, and you are going to join that chorus of alumnus and be something that we are all very proud of. So thank you to Quicken, thank you to the mayor, and we are very proud to partner with you. Thank you. And I almost forgot to introduce Tanya Allen. Never want to forget a funder. So Tanya, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you.
I went the wrong way. Thank you. Okay. Well, it's good to see everyone today, and it's really my pleasure to moderate this panel because I think what we have on this panel are some pretty amazing people who are go beyond just lip service when they talk about what we ought to be doing for young people. They are actually bringing practical, tangible ideas that are making a difference in the lives of young people. And then I am also really excited to do this panel because all of these young people who stood up just a few minutes ago are all in a few months going to be having a paycheck. And some of them promised me that they were going to take me to lunch.
There you go.
All right, so let's get started. So Mayor Duggan, one of our favorite quotes that we share, and usually when we're here, one of us, whoever gets up on the mic first, we go after that quote first. And so since I'm the first person on the mic, I get it this time, which is that talent is distributed equally, but opportunity is not, right? And so when we look at these young people, we know that they are immensely talented, but they don't always have access to the opportunities so that they can fulfill their potential. And we know in our city that there are challenges that they're facing. And so can you talk a little bit about what you've done to help them access opportunity and how you see us making sure that this is kind of opportunity lit or opportunity rich community?
Well, when I think about the talent being distributed, it's a young woman named Sharice Woods, who is right now in Greece competing for the World Chess Championship out of the Detroit schools. But the reason I know her is when she was 8 years old, somebody sat me down to play chess with her. I was on my high school chess team. And I said, this can't be that hard. She nearly beat me as an 8-year-old. Now she's in Greece representing our city, and I wouldn't be the least bit surprised. But everybody here knows we got a lot of natural talent. And you go around the city, and in my lifetime, what we had in Detroit where things were taken away from us. Factories moved out. The Pistons and the Lions moved out. Movie theaters moved out. It just seemed like everybody was going. Now, you see how fast stuff is being built up. We need to make sure those who live here and grew up here get the first shot at those jobs, right? We're not going to have all these new buildings come up. And the Detroiters who stayed are like, wait, what about me? And so my job is not just to keep recruiting these businesses in, which I'm confident we can do, but to make sure you're ready. And so how many people here participated in Grow Detroit's Young Talent? Okay, so you took advantage of opportunity to see what a job was like. How many here know about the Detroit Promise? Okay, so we got, because you're in Detroit and in a school in Detroit, 2 years of community college guaranteed to be paid for if you get admitted, and 3.0 and a 21 on your ACT, 4 years of tuition guaranteed at any one of a dozen Michigan public universities that you can be admitted. 5 years ago, those options like GDYT and Detroit Promise, folks sitting in high school, they weren't there. These are things that we have to build. And here's the thing I love about it, and for all practical purposes, the CTE program wasn't really here. Randolph wasn't nearly as vibrant as it is today. Bright Hawk wasn't. We've added these programs with a lot of support, and here's the way I look at the world. You have to do the hard work. I can give you the choices. So I went to law school, I had choices. I came out of school, I came downtown, worked in downtown Detroit. I was a private litigation attorney. I was going to be Jeff Feiger. And then I got hired into Wayne County as a deputy county executive. I built Comerica Park and Ford Field in my second career. Then I got elected Wayne County prosecutor. I was a prosecutor before Kim Worthy. But I loved healthcare and I studied it. I became the CEO of the Detroit Medical Center and I ran DMC for 9 years, and now I'm the mayor. I've had 5 different careers, all within 10 miles of where we're sitting. In your lifetimes, you're not likely to have just one job. And that means you have to start at the first thing, but you got to keep learning because you're likely to have 5 different careers. And so you say, hey, I really got a knack for the plumbing. I got a knack for the carpentry. I got a knack for the welding, and those are good skills to have. Doesn't mean you don't go on to go to college. I hope you get a chance. How many here have met Adrienne Bennett? So if you haven't yet, you got to get her here, right? You know who she is, right? So Adrienne Bennett was the first African-American female master plumber in the state of Michigan. She came through here. She thought she was going to spend her life fixing sinks and the like. But she realized she had some business sense, so she started taking some business courses. Then she started her own plumbing company. Turned out she was really good at it. She's now got one of the biggest plumbing companies, and if you've been to Little Caesars Arena, Adrienne Bennett had the company that put in most of the plumbing. So she picked up some skills on the CTE side, and she added to them. We have a number of people in this town who are renovating and building buildings. Started out getting some skills in welding and the like, found out they had some management skills. We have a whole lot of folks who say, you know what, I'm going to do my day job. I can make a really good income as an electrical worker, but I can buy 5 or 6 houses in this city, and I can fix them up. And it turns out you own 6 houses, you start to get 8 houses, 10 houses, you've built a whole lot of wealth on top of your paycheck. Our job is to give you choices and to have you say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to get this skill, and I'm going to go to the next skill. So as the city builds, you build, and that's what we're trying to do.
Okay, thank you, Mike. So one of the things that the mayor just took a moment to do was to cast for us a vision of what is possible for our young people. But we also know that in order for us to, for all of you to be able to achieve your dreams, that we got to knock down some barriers. And Ashana, your program has been extraordinarily successful in doing this in places like Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Virginia, and Chicago, and now Detroit. Can you talk to us a little bit about what barriers do we have to knock down so that these young people will be able to access every opportunity, not just the field jobs, because we want you all to create jobs so that you can hire people who live in your neighborhoods and you can own businesses. So can you talk a little bit about what you think that looks like?
Sure. So I think the biggest, more of an overarching one is we have to figure out ways to level the playing field. So we work in communities where, as we just talked about, students are hungry, talented, ambitious, want to work, want to learn. That's never the problem. That's never the question, but they often don't have the bridge, the access, the line to that opportunity. So we're working in communities where the adult unemployment rate in those communities are 3 times the national average. So we might be doing really well nationally, but in Anacostia and Southeast DC or other communities across the country, adult unemployment might be 30% in a neighborhood. So you have, and that impacts our students. So 80% of the students that we work with will take their paycheck and they will contribute a portion of that to household expenses. 90% of them are on free and reduced meals. And so they are ready for the opportunity, but the opportunity just has to be a little bit closer to them and to where they can reach it. So I really think what we're trying to do as Urban Alliance is be that bridge between the students, the schools, and the employers, where we can say, here's the door, we're just gonna open it a tiny bit, and then they kick it through. And that's really all we have to do. And as Andrew said, all those businesses that signed on that were skeptical, as soon as they saw the talent, the hunger, the leadership, they were sold, and those businesses have been with us for 20 years. So Tanya, I think it's just a matter of figuring out how can we get that opportunity piped in more. And I think there's programs like Urban Alliance, GDYT. I think there's a number of different ways to do that, but we need more. And I think it's always a question of the need is so massive, and how do we scale up in a way that's appropriate and effective and efficient. Still today, there are about 5 million young people, 16 to 24 nationally, who are disconnected from school and or work. So these are young people who they graduated, they may have a diploma or a GED, but they are not connected into the working world. So the question is, how can we get more opportunity to them? And again, that's why we're here and excited about being a part of this community and being able to do whatever it is we can to increase that access.
Great, thank you. So Bill,
Yes, ma'am.
as the Vice Chairman of Quicken Loans and Rock Holdings, and the mayor just talked about all of these different jobs he had, and you just got another job added to your plate of being
I didn't lose anything. I
Yeah,
just
you
picked
didn't
something
lose
else
that.
up.
So I'm going to tell you 2 jobs he got. He just got acting CEO of Bedrock, and then he also, in 2 months, is going to become my boss. So I can't ask him like really hard-hitting questions. He's on the.
Is that public? Is that public information? It is
No,
now.
it isn't. So media, don't talk about that. But he is on the Skillman Foundation Board of Trustees, and I'm grateful for him. But one of the things that's so unique about Quicken Loans is that you, in a very short amount of time, became the largest employer in the city of Detroit, and also the largest employer of Detroiters.
Right.
And so I would love it if you could just talk about, from your perspective, what you believe business is going to have to do to prepare young people to inherit this city. And so especially as we think about Detroit's recovery, and the recovery will not be a true recovery if everybody doesn't win, right? Like everybody has to have an economic attachment to that. And so what do you think the role of business is in this? And particularly, why are you investing in Urban Alliance as a part of your vision?
Sure. So 2 things before we do that. Just by a show of hands, how many people actually know who Jeffrey Fieger is or have seen a picture of Jeffrey Fieger? Then you know that neither the mayor or I could ever be Jeffrey Fieger because we don't have enough hair. Just Number 2, the kids who are going to be part of this program, can you raise your hand for me? I just want to welcome you to the Quicken Loans family. We're excited to have you be a part of this program and get the opportunity to interact with you and experience what you're all about and what you're thinking about. So welcome to the family. I got to go back because that was a long question. Listen, at the end of the day, I will tell you from our perspective, when we look around our company, and we have almost 4,000 people that live in the city of Detroit, representing just about every neighborhood in the city of Detroit, the work that we do in Detroit is critically important to those folks and what's happening in and around their communities. So that's number 1, because we care so much about our people. We want to make sure that they're active and engaged in the things that are going on in the city. We have invested in this school and the work that's being done here and the jobs necessary that will come out of a technical school like this. When you think about what's happening downtown, and there's 38,000 jobs coming available in construction, in the hospitality business, in the customer service business, There are plenty of jobs that need to be filled. What we need to do is connect the youth of this city to those jobs. And so in that same vein, we did the same thing in Breithoff. As you and I talked about yesterday, we're having a lot of conversations about things that we do in other areas and some of the investment that we're making in the Cody Rouge neighborhood. So while we're active, obviously, in the city, from our perspective, the Quicken Loans family of companies and the community fund perspective, making sure that the folks sitting in this room and anybody else in the city of Detroit has the pathway to the opportunity that we all talk about. Talent, right? Sitting in this room. How do we plug those two things in? How do we make people understand what's possible? And I'm so excited about being the inaugural group that brings Urban Alliance to Detroit, because the folks that are sitting in this room are going to get an experience that's not just about technical skills. This is about how do you integrate and how do you acclimate to a work environment? What are the leadership skills that you need? What are the life skills that you need? How do you interact and communicate with folks and work on a team in an environment you may or may not be used to? So, all of the work that we do under the umbrella of Quicken Loans and Bedrock and the work that's being done downtown is really important, but it doesn't matter if we don't connect these gateways, if we don't open up these doors of opportunity for people. And that's one of the biggest things that we're focused on. And, we've got our whole Quicken Loans Community Fund group here, Helen Johnson, Laura Grantham, and they work on this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They're so passionate about what we do in this community. I'm just honored to have the opportunity to represent here because they're the folks that do all the hard work.
Great. Now, Eddie Cotton is an alumnus of the program, and he's from Chicago. We're going to forgive him. But I want you to know that you can come to Detroit. It's the hottest city in the United States now.
Okay.
We bring young talent here. They
Most
come
definitely.
here and they thrive. So when you graduate from...
By the way, works for the Bulls, right? I
Yes.
think the Pistons are now undefeated, just for the record.
Oh, man. That's a whole nother topic. I don't even want to talk about it. I'm sorry. It's a little bit embarrassing.
But you're at the University of Wisconsin now, so when you graduate, we want you to come here. You can talk to Bill about maybe working for the Cavs, because he did through his...
I already asked him if he was interested in Cleveland. He gave me, I got a lukewarm response.
Or the Pistons, but we prefer the Pistons. But so you had a great opportunity as an intern where you got in a pretty prestigious position that lots of people in the community would desire. But in order to be successful in that program, in order to thrive, in order to go to college, because we know that Urban Alliance, if you go through Urban Alliance, 23% more likely to go to college and to be successful at it. So tell me, what is it that they helped you learn in that process? Like, what things did they help you break down in order for you to be successful?
Right. So, there was a lot. I guess the main thing that I got out of it was just they broke down a lot of barriers that I figured that a lot of students, like myself, for example, kind of face just being in the city and being from similar situations. So, for example, one that I think of that actually affected me was just the fact that a lot of us weren't made aware of different paths that we can take out of high school. There was really no one there to open the door for us, and there was no individualized approach to, show us the best path for us. It was more like, take this exam if you want to get to college. And unfortunately, we just didn't have anyone to talk to about what we wanted specifically out of life, and just the best way to make those dreams possible. And kind of along that line, while we didn't have that information readily available in school, we also didn't have any programs outside of school that would help us. There was no programs outside of school that would help us prepare for those opportunities. So, me, for example, before I got into Urban Alliance, I didn't really know too much about the office setting. And a lot of my friends didn't either. Like, we just didn't have that knowledge available to us. But Urban Alliance really opened my eyes to what was possible, if that makes sense. And, they kind of made me realize, like, I can work in the office if I wanted to. My dad, for example, he works in a hotel, and he sets up for events, and that's a really physically demanding job, especially for a man of his age. And just the fact that those employment opportunities were all that I knew about. After Urban Alliance opened my eyes, I was like, wow, this is really something new, and it gave me that confidence that I could do the same thing as well. But I guess just to end, the last kind of barrier that Urban Alliance kind of broke down for me, and I feel like it's the biggest one, is just the fact that, you know, they really allowed me to see the importance of, you know, making connections, if that makes sense. So a lot of these people up here are looking out for your best interests, and a lot of people that I've gotten exposed to, they really helped me out a lot. And the main thing that Urban Alliance has given me is just that mindset and just people in my corner who have supported me and honestly have looked out for me as if I was one of their own. So I would just say that if you are here and you are a student of Urban Alliance, use that to your best ability, because that's really important and can really play a huge part in like your motivation and everything like that. So, yeah.
Great, thank you, Eddie. Okay, Mayor, I want to come back to you with a quick question. So one of the things we see the city thriving, like you mentioned today, you're going to go and visit a business that has, what, 250 jobs or so that you didn't even know existed in Detroit. And it seems like those businesses are popping up everywhere and that they're growing, and you see people making investments here. And it makes me think about this quote, like, the future is coming and we can create it. And we are. We're creating right now a new Detroit. And of all of the people I know, I feel like you can visualize things and make them happen. It makes me think about Nelson Mandela's quote, it always seems impossible until it's done, right? And so what do we need to do? How does youth employment help us fill the needs for the future of our city? And how do we, you know, kind of make it happen? How do we get it done?
Well, we need you. I'm in meetings all the time. I'm trying to get a bank to locate here. I'm trying to get an auto plant to locate here. I'm trying to get a company to locate here. And their question is, do you have talented, hardworking Detroiters to fill the jobs? And the cities that do that are going to succeed, which means we can't leave anybody behind. And some of the ways, it's just almost hard to believe. So Flex and Gate is making the front ends and most of the trucks for the new Ford Bronco. It's going to be the hottest truck around. The owner of Flex and Gate, the guy's name is Shad Khan. He owns the Jacksonville Jaguars. Owns one of the biggest companies in the world. He has a plant in Royal Oak. He has a plant in Sterling Heights. He's got plants all over the world. He had to bring his main plant somewhere. And I sat with him and said, how about the I-94 corridor on the east side of Detroit? And we worked it out, and they have just built it, 500 jobs. But when you go in that plant's not the auto plant that your parents do. There's not somebody spinning the bolts on the wheels anymore. You got to be smart to work in an auto plant today. So 10 years ago, that plant that employs 500 probably would have employed 1,000 people. And it would have been in Mexico, because the wage difference is so high that when you got a big wage difference in 1,000 jobs, you got to go to Mexico. Now, the robotics are getting down to about 500 people. Now they're saying, why the hell do we want to truck this stuff all the way from Mexico if we could build the parts in Detroit? But when you look at them, they're folks in front of computer screens. They're folks making sure the robots work. When the line stops, they got to figure out why it stops. And the really good employees, the ones who get promoted fast, are saying, hey, this line stops 6 times an hour because of this problem. I got a solution that if we change this, it'll only stop 3 times an hour. People who have that kind of problem-solving skills, they get promoted, they make a lot of money. If we can get people to be trained with their brains as well as their skills, that means I can go to the next plant and the next plant and the next plant. And you're going to see this happen in this country. Donald Trump's going to take credit for it. But the truth is that wages are going up in Mexico and productivity is coming down. So no matter who's president, there's going to be more manufacturing jobs come to America in the next 5 or 10 years than we've ever seen. So the question is, does Detroit get it? Does Wisconsin get it? Does Alabama get it? South Carolina get it? And so this is when I look at this and I say, this is what you can do. And the problem-solving stuff. Who's heard of Motor City Match? Right? You can start your own company. So this is it. There are people here who have got the drive and ambition to start a company. And you can get a $50,000 grant if you got a good business plan to start a company in the city of Detroit. We've had now 200 winners. most of them Detroiters, who start a restaurant or a fitness center, whatever their particular love might be. And we're about to start Motor City pop-ups, where we're going to do $10,000 grants for people who want to start a small company to get started in a field. Because what do we want? We want you to say, when you go to whatever school you go to college, whatever you do, when you graduate, I don't want you going to Chicago. I want you saying, hey, if you're in Detroit, they've got all these things to help you start your business. And that's going to be the key. It's going to be a whole lot of you who help us bring the city back.
Well, I guess that
Does that
was
mean I talked
a convenient pause, Mark. Okay, thank you. And so what is interesting when you were talking just a second, Mayor, I was looking at these young people and I could see their brains churning like, yeah, I'm gonna get that grant. And so you will. So you just be encouraged. All right, Bill, Quicken Loans has been known for mastering the millennial. You have this, yeah, don't put that in the ism thing unless you quote me. But you have this very young and diverse staff, and it has been a great part of your success. And so here you have Urban Alliance, and now you're gonna get the I generation. You know, because
that the next generation?
that's the next generation. Y'all didn't even know that. Yeah, I found that out for y'all. But you're the I generation. That's where you are. You connected to technology. It's, you know, you're technologically native. That's your language. It's the way you'll work in different ways. So do you think that these kinds of programs will help you inform your company, because you're big on culture? You're big on having this active workforce. Do you think these type of programs will influence how you will do business, not just today, but business in the future?
So the answer to that question simply is yes. Most of you, I think, have it in your seat, this little book called Isms in Action, which kind of define who we are as an organization, the culture of the organization. And it's always been about empowering people to let them create and think, because at the end of the day, when you do that, your organization is so much better. We've had an internship program now in our organization that brings about 1,000+ interns a year and every summer. And I think folks, you know, they look at that and they say, well, that's 1,000 paid interns, that's a lot, right? And it is. But not only do those folks get to understand and interact with us and what we're doing, but we get to learn from them, right? And we get to understand what's really on the minds of the youth of America, what they're using from a technological perspective, how they're thinking about business in general. And they don't even know they're thinking about business, but they're just giving us ideas on a regular basis on what we can do differently inside of our businesses. So now that I know it's the I generation, I can have that conversation with my 17-year-old daughter and 12-year-old son, who seem to know how to use technology way better than I do. But you know, when you think about this and you think about this program and what we're going to be able to learn together, right? I mean, you all are going to get an opportunity to interact with some really high-quality folks inside of our organizations, but they're going to be listening and learning from you. And it's you know, I love the statement, seek first to understand, then to be understood. We really do just want to hear from you guys and what's important to you, and then give you the opportunities that you need and the things and the skills that you're looking for, because we know what it means to work in a diverse workforce. Trina Scott's here. I have diversity and inclusion, and she's done a phenomenal job of fostering that inside of our organization. But you know, when you look around our organizations, it is much younger than a lot of other organizations in the space that we look at. Because frankly, at the end of the day, the youth of America is where the future is. And you talk about the future, you know, the future's here. The future, as a matter of fact, if you're not thinking about these things today, you're already behind. And so we're going to be very, very interested to hear what you guys have to say.
Great, good. Now, Ashana, this program, it is such an important program because it's so high quality. It's a small number of young people. You go really deep. It is easy for somebody to write that off and say it's a small program. They go really deep. It's a successful one, but maybe we can't get it to scale, or it's only going to affect 30 kids or so. But this is a bigger play. It's a community play. It's a generational play. It's a system play. Can you help us understand that?
Certainly. So we do everything we think about as in a cohort of 30 to 40 students, so that we have an Urban Alliance program coordinator who can go deep with each of those students and be their coach and their navigator and their support over the course of the internship, which is really long, 9 months. It's 600 hours of work, $7,000 at least in wages, potentially more. There's raises involved and the like. So we definitely think about it that way, but we are only limited by the number of employers who would come and say, I'll take more. So the smaller cohorts really are, they are strategic in terms of how we run the model, but it could be many, many more, Tanya. It could be thousands in a city if companies did more, or if there were additional companies like Quicken that wanted to step up and say, we'll do, a cohort of 30 as well, and then you could really see that scale build. That said, it's an intensive model, and we understand that, and we feel that, the numbers that we do are groundbreaking and still life-changing, so that every young person who goes through it, Eddie talked about this, it's about the confidence building that really where we do the best and most important work, because they can get in there and do the technology and do the skills. They're ready for it. They'll be your culture keepers and come with all kinds of great ideas. But really, what Urban Alliance is able to do at a very intensive level is to really work with them on like their confidence, their self-esteem, their attendance and their attitude, and sort of ask questions and those kinds of things that kind of get overlooked in some of our other, in this space. And so I think that's where we sort of are unique, and that's what we bring to ecosystems where we do have the other bigger numbers. So I think what I'm hoping for here is that Urban Alliance is a year-round slice that can grow and grow fairly big, but that we are in constant partnership with the other models that are here. You have JAG, you have GDYT, you have so many others as well, so that we can create, as I said earlier, a continuum of services and supports and have many, many youth employment opportunities, so that you all can open any of these youth employment doors and get a great early, quality, meaningful workforce experience. That is what is most important, that it's quality and that it's meaningful. And I'm looking forward to also doing work where we can all come together and say, what are the competencies that every young person needs to have, no matter if they go through my program or someone else's program or this program or that program. What do we want our students to walk away from so that they can get the jobs that they need to have, live lives of dignity and have family-sustaining wages? So I guess to answer your question, we feel that we may be a little bit, sort of on the surface smaller, but bring a lot to the table. In addition to being evidence tested, as far as being able, as you noted, young people who go through our program are 23 percentage points more likely to go on to the next step and also retain that hard and soft skills comfort level, which again, I think is really the heart of the model. Are you confident? Do you have that strong self-esteem? Can you go to Bill's office and say, hey, can you hire me tomorrow?
Well, first of all, yes, you can, because my door's always open, so I'm looking forward to seeing all of you guys when you're there.
So I think that's how I would respond to your question.
Okay, good. So Eddie, you get the last word.
Oh, okay. No pressure.
Get ready, get ready. So really, we've heard about like how this program in fact affects the broader kind of ecosystem, like all of the different players that play in, what it does for the city, what it does for business, what it does for workforce development, training and the like. But what we really want to hear is, what does it do for you? And what can these young people expect? Like when they go through this program, what would you say, like, look, you can expect to be like what? Or you're going to expect to have these kind of experiences?
Okay. Well, I talked to you guys yesterday, so I apologize if a lot of the stuff I'm saying you already heard, but it doesn't take away from the fact that it's still super important. But I would just say that the most important thing that you want to do is just not associate this with school. I'm sure we can all agree that school isn't always the most fun thing in the world, at all times, but I know for me personally, I love learning skills that can be applied to the real world, and, that's all that Urban Alliance is, that's the main meat and bones of Urban Alliance, is to teach you skills that you can take to the real world no matter what it is that you do. So you kind of want to separate Urban Alliance and because it's easier to go to a class, learn something, and say, oh, I'm not going to use this in my real world, so I'm just going to zone out. But that's not really what you want to do for Urban Alliance. You want to take these skills that you learn here and know that they can be used no matter what you do. So I would say that's the first thing. But another thing is just to expect. So yesterday I got a couple questions about like taking what you learn here and going off somewhere else, but I would say that's not what you want to do at all. You want to stay in the system as long as you can, just because Urban Alliance provides so much support and so much just guidance that you want to kind of, make your face known to these people, and especially to the people that you're going to be working for. You just want to make sure that you have that solid connection and make it known that you want to be under them and have their guidance, and you want their teachings, and you want to still be able to, use them as a resource, if that makes sense. So just don't take it for granted at all. I would also just say, branch out as much as possible. Make those connections, whether it's with the people that you're working with in the office or your bosses or even just the people up here. Just don't be shy. Just go up there, assert yourself, introduce yourself. If you're from Chicago, you might want to leave that out. But that's never a bad thing to put a face to your name, especially if you're doing a good job at what you do. So expect a lot. Expect to be challenged. Expect to be nervous a lot, but also expect to be supported and know that there's always someone here at Urban Alliance that you can go to for support when you do feel overwhelmed. And that might happen, but it's okay to always go to them, you know what I'm saying? But yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Eddie. And like I said, Detroit is a great place. It's not far from your parents, so when you move here, they can
When I move here,
close
okay,
by.
got you. I'm glad you decided.
But I do want to thank all of the panelists. I'm sorry, Bill, please.
Just two things. First of all, I want to thank Mayor Duggan for all the work that he's done from an infrastructure perspective to put a lot of these opportunities in place. The city's been a great partner to work with. And I also want to reach out to the business community, because at the end of the day, what we're doing, this is the beginning phase, right? If we can be a catalyst to others starting to plug in to what Urban Alliance is doing, I think it can make a big, big difference in the city of Detroit. So everybody's doing a lot, but I think we can always do a little bit more. So to those of you in the business community, please check out Urban Alliance and get plugged in.
And Andrew, you've got a winner this time. Thank you.
Great, good. So just in closing, I want to say is that the Skillman Foundation is committed, and we're investing in this because we believe every young person in this city deserves access to opportunity. And when I say we have to be opportunity lit, this city has to have so many opportunities for every single person. And in order to create that, we all have to do it. And so with that, I just really want to thank the mayor for his leadership, Quicken Loans for its leadership. I want to thank the young people for participating. I want to thank Bank of America for all of their efforts to get this to happen. And most importantly, I want to thank Urban Alliance for bringing this model here. And the last thing I would just say is that I think about Andrew's comment about how all of the young people took business cards and nobody called them back. I want all of the young people to give me your business cards. So, because I believe one day I need to stay in contact with you because I may have to work for you. And plus, I want to get my lunch. Thank you. So, as we exit the stage, I think we'll stay on the stage, but I was going to ask Alicia Merriweather to come on up. Everybody knows Alicia,
Good morning. Again, thank you to the panelists. Thank you to Urban Alliance for choosing Detroit. As a lifelong Detroiter, a Detroit Public School graduate, I've chosen Detroit my whole life. And when people outside the city choose to come to Detroit, it's meaningful. And I just want to say thank you. I also want to thank Quicken, of course, Skillman, Bank of America, the city. We can't do this work by ourselves. So I stand here on behalf of Detroit Public Schools Community District, but make it plain to all here, we can't do this work by ourselves. So having support from, I think you referenced courageous corporate corporations or courageous corporate leadership. We have that, and we have courageous city leadership. And our kids deserve that. And I wanted to say to the young people, anytime I have the opportunity to speak to young people and you're actually listening, I'm going to take advantage of this for a minute. So my last comments are really directed to you. And I want to challenge you as you've gotten this opportunity. I want to challenge you to learn. And I'm going to give you something to remember because that's the way that I teach. So, L, when you go into this opportunity, I want you to listen. I want you to listen to what adults and mentors are telling you. E, for energy, bring positive energy into the space that you're going into. Sometimes the mentors that you're going to work with have never worked with young people. I'll just be honest. And that can sometimes be intimidating. But you're not intimidating. You're awesome. And so bring that positive energy with you. Does that make sense? Okay. I need to see some positive energy right now from my young people. Okay. The third one, A, ask questions. People have said that all along, but I want to put a clarifier on that. Ask questions respectfully and ask questions when things don't make sense. And a lot of times you'll be in situations and you will move straight into an accusation instead of a question. So I always say inquiry instead of accusation. So ask a question before you make an accusation. R, respect. I'm not going to get into that. You've heard that since you were in kindergarten. N, never listen to the naysayers. Never listen to the naysayers. You're going to have people every step of the way who try to tell you, you can't do this, or say, why do you keep going to that job, that Urban Alliance thing? You don't need to do that. Don't listen to them. Don't listen to them. Listen to all the adults in here who just said, that's right. Adults in the room, am I telling the truth? Never listen to the naysayers. You're Detroiters. We're proud of you, and we're proud of what you're going to do. But in order for you to make this opportunity work for you, you're going to have to do some work. So all the people on the stage made this happen. They made it come to you. You have it. But when this whole program is over, the question that I'm going to come back and ask you is, what did you get out of it? Because we can bring the opportunity to you, but now it's yours. So what are you going to do with it? And all the adults in the room, if we had had this opportunity, I'm going to tell you right now, I graduated from Renaissance High School when it was housed in the building right behind here, which is now Flicks. If I would have had an opportunity like this, I think about all the different things that would have opened up for me. If I would have had the Detroit Promise, which we did not have at that time. I mean, young people, now is the time to be in Detroit, and I am so thankful that Urban Alliance is here. I'm thankful for the support of the mayor, Quicken, and our guests from Chicago, Skillman, and all the other people in the room. And so I'm going to ask a very simple question. I'm going to ask everyone in this room, all the adults, if you care about the young people in this city, would you stand up? And young people, I want you to look around. And I want you to stand up and just do a 360. Stand up and look at everyone who's standing. And can we give our young people a round of applause? All right. Thank you. I'm going to close with our tagline right now, Detroit Public Schools Community District, when students rise, we all rise. Thank you.
I need you to go down first.